Hola, buenos dias, Karma community. I'm Michael and coming to you with the latest new moon astrological report. And this time we're standing in the Mexican Mayan lands. Right behind me is the Astrological Observatory at the Chichen Itza University. And this is where the Mayans did their astrological observations several thousands of years ago. Still standing today, and still using cosmic alignments with the planet Venus and several other of the stars around our solar system. But today I'm here to talk to you about the new moon, which is Wednesday, June 13th. And this new moon is in the sign of Gemini. Whenever we have a new moon, it means the moon and the sun are together in the sky and sharing the same sign. So our sun is also in the sign of Gemini. And just slightly in front of him is the planet Mercury. And Mercury's home sign, where the energy of Mercury feels most comfortable, is Gemini. So for lack of a better term, we have a Gemini party, which is a quite appropriate way to put it, because Gemini is the sign that rules energy, vibration, thought, transmission. If we go back to the ancient Romans and Greeks, where the name Mercury comes from, Mercury or Hermes, it's the god that is the messenger between the two worlds. And Mercury/Hermes is the only god that has permission to go between the worlds any time of the year. He can come from the top of Mount Olympus down to the plane of the humans and down into the underworld freely. And he can do this because he is not of substance, but he's of message. Now, this time of energy of Gemini that is message relates a lot to the mind, the mental regions. So when the new moon, the sun, and the planet Mercury are in the sign of Gemini, it can be a lot of activation of thought, of mental activity, of old thinking patterns. And so something to be aware of, as I've said in a previous astrology report, all energy in astrology is neutral, and it has an opportunity to manifest either as something that's challenging or something that is more easy with its flow. For this one, an ease of flow can mean quickness of thought, can mean new ideas come sparking out of nowhere into your mind, new inspirations, new curiosity. It can even manifest into the use of your hands. Mercury rules the hands, and the hands is how we take things from the thought and the heart and put them out into the world to share our gifts. This can be doing art, cooking food, gardening, or simply doing yoga, or anything that involves use of the hands or arts or crafting. So this new moon phase with the sun and Mercury can be an excellent time for you to do crafts, to do writing, to do speaking, to do a blog, to put up a video, to get your message out between the worlds. Say what's coming from your inner world, your soul, and share it with the outer world, with the other peoples, your gift. Now, the unbalanced way that this can manifest with all this Mercury energy can be too much thinking, too much in the head, creating anxiety. Or it can even create depression when so much energy is getting sucked up here and taken away from our heart and also our digestive system. And it's not just digestion of food, it's digestion of ideas, experiences, people, time. And so when you have all this mental activity, it can be draining on the body system. It can be overwroughting of the nerves. It can create a lot of stress in the nervous system. So be aware in this time to examine the thoughts as they come up. And to help with this energy is the moon's nodes. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with the moon's nodes, they're not physical objects, but they are places in space where the eclipses happen, both a lunar eclipse and solar eclipse. They're points in space when the sun, the moon, and the earth all align in a particular order to either create a solar or lunar eclipse. I bring this up for two reasons. One, coming up in July 12th, the next new moon in this cycle, when the new moon will be in Cancer, there will be a total solar eclipse. However, this total solar eclipse may not be visible from where you are in Denver or other places in the world, but the energy will be felt throughout the world. And also with this south node, which is where the planet Mercury is right now, the south node of the moon, where eclipses can happen, is where Mars is seated right now. And the south node of the moon and Mars are both in the sign of Aquarius. In Vedic astrology, which is the astrology used by the yogis, the south node of the moon is called Ketu, and it refers to your past, your karmas. It can also refer to gifts that you haven't brought yet to fruition but are hanging like a fruit in a tree just waiting to drop and hit the earth. The Mayans have a really nice way of describing this, since we're in the Maya lands right now. The number 6 in Mayan is the word Huac, U-A-C. And the Mayans use the number 6 because it's 2 interlocking triangles, Shiva and Shakti, or the Star of David, as you may be familiar with. And this Shiva-Shakti triangle is perfection. It's the masculine and feminine together, and when it's in balance, it flows easily. Or it's like that fruit on the tree, when it's ripe, it falls right to the earth and whack, it hits down on the ground. And so this can be a time when Mars is on the south node to express positively. Mars is your desire, what you want to put out in the world. Mars is your masculine energy. It penetrates, it comes out from you. When you use this in high vibration, when it's sitting on the south node of the past, you may have talents, gifts, or karmas that are coming to a completion or a fruition. Something that you've been struggling with for a long time to overcome, a fear, an anxiety, an old karma or samskara. Samskara is the yogic word for something that you keep repeating that groove over and over again. And this could be a time where that Mars willpower finally breaks it. On the shadow side of this, you can be engaging in a lot of old mental activity, old beliefs that you've been thinking since last year, 10 years ago, since childhood, since 5 lives ago. A groove that perhaps you're not worthy, you're not good enough, you're not unique enough. When it's also working with this new moon in Gemini, you may think thoughts, I have no skills, no gifts, nothing to offer anybody. Everybody can do it better than me. I have nothing to put out into the world that's of use. So when you see these thoughts coming, Gemini activating the mental activity, and your Mars, your willpower, being challenged by energies of the past, something to remember as the yogic practice, or at the Mayans did, in this site of Chichen Itza that we're in right now, or that I'm standing on, one of the main teachings of Chichen Itza, which is the Universidad de Corazon, the University of the Heart. It's here to teach people how to come into the heart, and the ancient Mayans came to this university, and people still come today by the thousands to have their heart opened at the pyramid of Kukulkan. And throughout this site there's imageries, carving stelas of skulls with severed heads. Now when the Spanish came to investigate this site with the conquistadors, they had an agenda on their mind of conquering, of taking over, of supplying their empire with more money, more resources. And they instantly interpreted these carvings of skulls as meaning that the Mayans were cutting off the heads of people and sacrificing them. Now if we look to the yogic tradition, there's also many representations of the severed head. The goddess Kali has a garland of skulls around her neck. She also has a garland of severed arms around her waist. The head is often the representation of that Gemini energy. Thinking, 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 fear, 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 fear. Lack of self-worth, doubt, doubt, doubt. Repetition of energy, repetition of thoughts. And so the Mayans, the yogis, and many other wisdom traditions around the world, the native traditions of the Americas, symbolizes the end of thinking by cutting off the head, letting the head be silent. And in one of the glyphs at the center of the ball court, there's a head, a skull sitting there, and out of the mouth of skull are these beautiful curls of breath of new life. And the Mayans were expressing in their esoteric way, meaning hidden into the knowledge of the stone, and not in the exoteric way, meaning the interpretation is not literal. They're showing the pathway to cut the head off, to silence the mind and return to the heart, the corazon, the pyramid, the temple within. And so this is a time where if you get caught up in all the frenetic energy of Gemini and that south node energy of your past and your karmas and the repeated thoughts, you may associate with these thoughts and think, I am that. But the yogis, the Mayans, the Native Americans, and even our modern wisdom traditions give you the opportunity with your yogic practices, with your Mother Nature practices, with any spiritual practice that brings you back into a connection to Mother Earth and nature, that you don't have to associate with your thoughts. Just because you think something doesn't mean you have to follow it down the rabbit hole and keep going off the branches of that thought. You have the yogic practices to take a breath, center yourself, remember who you truly are at your heart center, and let it go like the wind. We have visitors coming into Chichen Itza, motorcycles behind us. But just like that noisy motorcycle, we can choose to focus on it, or we can choose to let it go like the breeze. And so take this opportunity with that Mars South Node past energy. Instead of following old thoughts that maybe you have a karma that's going to drop to the earth like whack and bring you into perfection that you already are, that Shiva Shakti triangle. One last aspect to talk about this is if you look up into the night sky any night during this phase, you'll see the planet Jupiter in the east where the sun rises, shining bright, and in the west you'll see, which is behind me, the planet Venus shining bright. And I feel like both planets, just on an intuitive level, are speaking to us right now. The planet Jupiter is in the sign of Scorpio, and it's making a square to the planet Mars, that same South Node energy. Jupiter in Scorpio is Jupiter is the biggest planet in the solar system, and Scorpio is deep. It's the underworld. The Mayans call it Xibalba. That's where you go in for transformation. The Greeks call it Hades, or Pluto, the planet itself, is the name for the underworld, the unconscious, the soul. It's not a bad place, but it's the place where everything exists in one, including your fears, your unopened gifts, your potential, the unconscious mind, which is 99% of us. The ego is just that 1% tip of the iceberg. And so with Jupiter squaring that Mars energy, it gives an extra big magnifying lens on the sensitivity of us. Scorpio is the sign of the scorpion, and the underside of the scorpion is very sensitive, and it has the stinger to protect itself. And so if you go into shadow mode, as your shadow or your karma or your past is being shown to you, you may go for the stinger and lash out at the one that is being the mirror to you. A loved one, a child, a situation, an email, or just looking into the mirror, you want to sting back at it because it's easier for you to see it outside of you than inside. However, at the same time, Jupiter's making a beautiful, harmonious trine, a positive aspect to the planet Neptune in Pisces. Neptune represents the John Lennon energy of imagine, of creation, of the butterfly coming by, of moving your heart wings. In Atlantis, they represented the soul with the butterfly because it's breathing in and opening beautifully, and exhale, a soft close. This could be a time for you to open up to your John Lennon imagine new possibilities energy. Let your heart butterfly expand, your mariposa. Let that Atlantean energy come back and express love. New possibilities for our planet, new ways to imagine to use that Wak energy, that gift that's come to fruition for you, and how to bring it back to the others, to share your gift. I think one of the main teachings of the Mayans, of the Lakota, of the yogis, and the teachings of all the wisdom traditions of the heart is once you've overcome a karma, a trauma, a samskara, an old mental pattern, a gift is given to you, a boon, a jewel, a gem, a new way of being. And the best way that you can further let this gift shine is to share it with others. To let others know who are one step behind you on the path how to join you, how to come along, offer your hand, say, join me brother, join me sister, let me show you how to come along. So I leave you with our new moon report in Gemini. In 2 weeks, Katrina will be sharing with you the full moon. And just as a little preview, that full moon and this new moon are the last one of the eclipse cycle that started back at the end of January and February, and even going back to that total solar eclipse that passed over the United States in August. The next eclipse, as I said, will be July 12th. And so with this Gemini energy, ending that eclipse cycle, eclipses are portals to open something and close something. And I think this one is a closing of that past energy, and the Gemini part can give you some mental clarity, some possibilities of what the path is ahead through some old problems, or some new portals may open up to you for imagination. While Mars in Aquarius It's also, Aquarius is the sign of the visionary, the future, what's possible to come. So tap into that Mars willpower of what can I do in the future? How can I let go of the past? How can I use my Scorpio Jupiter energy to imagine John Lennon possibilities of one world, Hari Om? And to use that mental energy of the moon, the sun, and Mercury to create beautiful gifts of artisans, of the hands, of the feet, of the mouth, of the eyes, of the yoga. We look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks. Namaste. In La Catch.
Imagine all the people